if you just search trans on Instagram, the things that come up, like, you do you, hun. You live your life, you earn that coin. I would never judge anyone for that. But there is some very... Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Alexis Blake. I am a trans woman and I share my life stories and opinions on social media. I almost forgot what I was saying, not like I say that in every single video. Hello! So I have a really interesting video for you today. At least I think it's interesting anyway. It's a podcast. Well, no, I'll tell you a little bit first. So, sorry, I'm everywhere. Last night I was in bed scrolling my phone and I came across this podcast by a trans woman. She is interviewing a guy who is only attracted to trans women and I found it fascinating. So I want to talk about it with you today. We'll show some clips and we can just have a little chit chat together. So, first things first, this might be a slightly longer video. Maybe go grab a cup of tea, cup of coffee, a glass of wine if that's your kind of vibe. I'm not sure, whatever you need to do, and we'll dive right in. One thing I want to do, let's address the elephant in the room first. I'm not wearing a swimming costume, I am wearing a new top. I still have the tag on this new top because I can't decide if I like it or not. Let me know what you think. If you hate it, it will go back to the shop because I'm really 50-50. I feel like I look like I'm about to go swimming. I'm also wearing sweatpants. Always am in every single video, just so you know. Right, okay, let's jump in. Okay, we'll watch the opening sequence. There's about 6 clips I want to react to. I know it sounds a lot, so please stick with me because it is really... I find it fascinating anyway. I hope you do too.
Anyone who's dating trans women? No. Why is it? Because there's so many men who love trans women, but there's not many men who date us publicly. Why is it? Is it a shame? Is it fear? Is it embarrassment? Do they think it's gonna make them feel less masculine? In today's episode, I'm going to uncover all these questions about men and dating trans women. So, let's go deep.
I am already hooked after that. So the podcast is called Trans Crush. Please do go give it a check out after you finish this video. First of all, she is stunning. I don't really have much else to say, because that was just the intro. But anyway, we have a premise now. So, do you know what? I do have one thing to say. I always have something to say. Who am I kidding? There is stigma around men dating trans women. And I am very naive in a sense that I've never dated as a trans woman. Many of you might know my partner, fiance Liam. We have been together since before my transition. So we've been together for 4.5 years now, I had to think then, getting married this year. And we do have a podcast called The Blake Debate. It's also posted on this channel as well. I have never dated as a trans woman, so I've never had to experience that. But I have experienced how men can behave around trans women and the things that can be said, especially in DMs. I've seen that quite a bit. But there is a stigma. Why is it? I want to kind of give my 2 cents now why I think there's a stigma. I think it's something to do with masculinity and men having fragile masculinity. Not all men, obviously. And I'm not saying that men should want to date trans women. Let's just put that out there right now, because I say all the time, we all have our preferences. If trans people aren't your preference, that is absolutely okay. That does not make you a transphobe. But I think when men do like trans women, there is a stigma because they're almost scared of what other men would say about them, and then it's also, you're gay. That's what the census is. Not that I agree with that at all, because trans women aren't men, they're not gay men. Depending on the level of trans women as well, with surgery wise and stuff, that can play a big factor into it. I don't know, there's many reasons. I think it's just to do with masculinity. Let me know what you think below in the comments, why you think there's a stigma around men dating trans women. Anyway, let's watch the first clip where she introduces her guest. Also, I got my nails done. I know they're chavvy, but I love them. Girls, when I was a teenager and I was jealous of them, had nails like these. So now I am transitioned. I allow myself to do these things, and every time I look down, they make me smile. So that's the most important thing. Anyway.
My first question is, when did you know you were attracted to trans women?
I was in denial for a few years. It started off with porn when I'd say maybe about 15, 16, on all sorts of porn, but it was the trans porn that I was mainly on. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think anything of it. It was just something I used to do, like most lads. But it was for a few years that this obsession and attraction to trans was on my mind. late teens, early 20s.
Okay, interesting start to the video. I know that for the adult film industry, trans is a huge category, and we can, like, I can just see it from like Instagram, like trans girls. Obviously, I like being trans, I talk about trans things. I get suggested a lot of trans content, and if you just search trans on Instagram, the things that come up, like, you do you, hun. You live your life, you earn that coin. I would never judge anyone for that. But there is some very sexualized trans women with like physical things being somewhat seen in videos. I don't know. It's just like a whole thing. And I think we've progressed a lot from trans people being hidden in the shadows. And it's very public now on social media. But there is, you just go on Instagram and you can find it. It's like, I don't ask to find it and it's there in front of my face. So I think it has become a huge thing. And like on adult film websites, trans stuff is everywhere. Very fascinating. I wonder, I don't want to speak out of turn and I don't want to offend any trans women in here, but is it like the taboo-ness? Is it like the secret? Is it like the, I don't know, like, how do I explain it? I think I'm going to leave it there. The taboo-ness and the secretiveness, is that what is, well, we'll find out more anyway. Let's watch a bit more.
So I still kept it in my head a little bit. I didn't come out to my gay mate. The reason he found out that I was into trans, I was around his once. My phone let off a Grindr notification.
Okay.
And I didn't say anything. Later that night, he texted me. He was like, look, I know what that sound was. He's like, look, I'm here for you if you're gay or whatever. And I just says, look, I'm into trans girls.
Yeah. Let's just say for our listeners that Grindr app is an app, dating app for...
There is a section for trans.
It's gay and trans, right? So being on Grindr doesn't really necessarily mean that you're into guys, right?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So he was like, please tell me what's going on, or like he was like, what's happening?
Yeah, because that's where I was on dating apps. I'd had like a couple of flings, nothing serious, and I was still totally new to it, even though for years I'd been obsessing on porn and knew it was in me.
Yeah.
It was still so scary dipping my toe in, and I was on Grindr, the faceless profile. that was me.
I didn't know that about Grindr. Obviously, I know of Grindr, and in my past life, I don't want to go into it, but I know what Grindr is, and I didn't know that it had a trans section, so that's also fascinating. So if you're a trans girl out there, there's something for everyone now. Something that resonated with me then when he was talking, he was saying he's so scared to dip his toe in. And I wonder why. Is it almost like, for like men and women, there's a social expectation, maybe a family expectation, where we're supposed to grow up and be a certain way. We're supposed to marry and date and have kids and be these certain people. Is it because it's pushing outside of those expectations? Is that why someone is afraid to dip the toe in? I'm leaving this video very open-ended because, again, I don't have much experience with this. Like I said earlier in the video, I get some graphic DMs from men, unsolicited, thank you very much, because I have a loving partner. But I wonder what it is. I just wonder what it is, but it's always taboo and it's always a secret and like almost shameful. And that is sad. And I do want to take a second to look at how hard it must be to date as a trans woman, because when you're a trans woman, I think trans women dating, especially pre-op, and obviously you have to come out to the partner. I strongly believe that you should always come out to someone that you're dating so that they know you're trans, as long as you do it safely when there's other people around. But it must be hard because I think that the small percent of men that are interested in trans women is so minuscule. It must be really hard dating. I just find it so fascinating. I think it's because it's a world that I've never dipped my toe in, and I'm grateful that I don't have to because I have Liam. But I just find it, because I've never experienced it, I find it interesting to look at. So I found this podcast fascinating. Let's watch some more. I think I've decided on the top it's a no.
People always say, why do you choose to go with trans people? And it isn't a choice, it's in your DNA.
Yeah.
It's just in you.
Instruction. It's like some people go for blonde, some people go for short, some people go for different ethnicities. It's your attraction. It doesn't go anywhere, right? Yeah.
If you say to the guys that are into trans, why? I can't tell you why. It's just something that's in me.
Yeah.
It's not because of this, it's not because of that. It's just in me. Mm-hmm. Which again took me a long while to accept.
So another question, and I am going to act very naive here, and I'm asking open-ended questions like I said earlier. So if a person, says a man for instance, say him, as he is only attracted or primarily only attracted to trans women, is that then a sexuality? I know like trans women are fetishized and sexualized in a lot of circumstances. From later on in the video, he talks about like relationships and stuff. He wants to date trans women and be with trans women long term, not just as like a one-off or something. But he is only attracted to trans women, so is that then now a sexuality? Do you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, it's so fascinating to me, sorry. It's just so interesting because obviously trans people have always existed. Like if you look back through history, there's been trans people, but like medical transition is more of a newer thing. So as medical transition has progressed in the last, say, 100 years with hormone surgeries and things like that, obviously then you have this like sort of new wave of people who are attracted to trans people. I just find that so fascinating because obviously you had to have one for the other to occur. So if he, let me rephrase what I'm trying to say, if there was no trans people, or if we would say 100 years ago where people didn't medically transition and socially transition, who would he be attracted to? Would you? I don't know. Oh, it's so interesting. Anyway, there's some more. Is everyone enjoying the cup of tea, coffee or wine? Next clip.
Seeing another girl. Again, she was great. The support that she was giving me was great. She was quite early on in her transition. So, again, this was all new to me. I did get feelings for her and she had feelings for me. Lockdown was looming and she wasn't from the same city as me. So it was all these things and I was like, part of me did want to go out with her, but there was loads of factors why I couldn't. But I'll be honest, the pre-transition was a factor. And I know that's quite mean to say, but it was on my mind because she wasn't that passable. Which does sound quite shallow, but it was a big thing for me. I don't think I could have handled it.
Another interesting thing. So that must be hard as a trans woman to be broken up with because you aren't passable. Again, I've spoken briefly to some trans friends about this and dating as a trans woman, and it's so complex and intricate. And from what I've gathered, there's two types of men who are interested in trans women. This is just from my like research with my friends. There's the chasers. So when I've been on nights out with other trans friends, like a big group of us, there's been men at the bar who were just specifically there to hook up and get with trans women, but not to settle down with. They're just chasing the fantasy and the fetish. But then you've also got these other men who are like this guy who want to date and fall in love and be with a trans woman long term. They're the sort of two types that I've seen. With what he said about how he struggled because the trans woman didn't pass, it's a hard one because who am I to sit here and say, well, that should be okay with you, because I can't sit here and say that because that's his attraction. I can't sit here and say who he should be and should not be attracted to, but I think just looking at it from the flip side, from the trans woman's point of view, that must be really hard. As for all trans women, passability plays such a big role if men are attracted to trans women in a lot of the cases. And that must be difficult because obviously if a trans woman doesn't pass, that brings stigma and a different life experience in society. So that then means that their partner, him, would have a different experience when out and about in public. So I think that's an interesting point as well. I've said interesting point like 50 times in this video. Apologies. Right, next clip.
This isn't just the odd one. This is like thousands, if not millions in it. It's ridiculous the amount of guys that are into trans girls, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no one's admitting it.
Yeah.
It's this big secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was this statistics from last year from, I think it was Pornhub, and the trans category was the third most watched category. So I said to myself, where are the numbers are here, but where are the guys? Where are they?
Guys, yeah.
I think that says a lot. Like on one of the biggest adult film websites, for the third most popular category to be trans women, that's kind of like blowing my mind a little bit. But the thing is, like she said, where are the men? So I know that trans women struggle to date in a lot of instances. I wonder if men are attracted to trans women, they watch these videos and maybe have a few, like they dip their toe in here and there, but to settle down, they settle down with women, maybe. I wonder if that is why we don't see all of these men publicly like him, like very brave, like 10 out of 10 for him doing it, because I would imagine a lot of men would get a lot of sort of, sorry, I don't know any other word, but a lot of rubbish for doing that because the stigma that would come with that. Maybe it's just, it all comes down to like society's opinion. For quite masculine men, they might struggle with society looking at them in a way that's different if they were dating a trans woman publicly. But having that in secret, I think that's where they're okay with that. But that doesn't make it okay. Like, if you want to date a trans woman, just date a trans woman. You know? Don't live your life for other people. It never made anyone happy in history, let's be real. Anyway, let's watch the last little clip.
Why is it such a big deal?
We definitely need more mainstream people dating trans women, whether it's sportsmen, whether it's actors, public figures, politicians, because if it's going to be mainstream, then it's going to be okay, and then it's going to be like, yeah, it's not a big deal. It's like with gay people 30-40 years ago, it was a big deal, and now it's so mainstream, no one really talks about it, no one really is surprised
it's not
about
that much
it.
of an issue.
So I think we need to do the same thing with trans women.
I think that's a valid point. I think because it's not mainstream, and it does come down to celebrities, public figures, people who are well known. With gay people, for instance, going back like 40, 50 years ago, when no one was out at all, it was this whole taboo. But then over the last sort of 20, 30 years, as like celebrities have come out as gay and lesbian, that has sort of opened the door for everyone else, because then it creates that conversation, and not always a good conversation, but it creates a conversation, and people can start changing opinions and learning about it. Because I think that's the thing as well, a lot of people don't know a lot about trans people. Hello, if you're on my channel, so you might know a little bit more than most, but the average person, they might not know a great deal. They probably won't even know a trans person, because we're only like, it's less than 1% trans people, I think, in the whole population. So you might know someone who's trans, but you might not know that they're trans. They might not be public, because a lot of trans people, again, aren't public about it. They live in stealth and don't tell people. I don't know why in my head then I was like, we walk among you or something. That's what just came to my head. But I think if it was more like well known and people did date publicly, I think then it would become more and more over time accepted. And I don't want to use the word normal, but I don't know any other word right now to use. Let's have a conversation below about this. If you do enjoy this kind of content, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I always love reading your comments. The podcast channel is called Trans Crush. Very interesting video. There's other videos on there. I would recommend going to have a little watch. Thank you so much for watching this video today, and please let me know if you think I should keep this top swimsuit thing. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Bye. Just slide out. Bye-bye.